Welcome to Soccer Talk, a podcast about soccer, mostly in Iowa, presented by Kick It Forward. Kick It Forward is a positive disruptor to the Iowa soccer community.
Thanks to our sponsors, Scott Insurance Services and Michael Keener, Attorney at Law. You need legal help, you need insurance help, those are the two to contact.
That's right. Welcome to the show. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Iowa soccer supporters. Welcome to Soccer Talk. I'm here with my good buddy Blake Siebers. He's also my co-host. What's up, dude?
Hey, good afternoon, Ben. A good little day today. A couple firsts. One of them being our good old friend Joe Sathanarath,
AKA
the Southside Schemer.
That's right. He's in the house today, in the studio,
making his debut.
Yep, his podcast debut, his Soccer Talk debut, his Game of the Week debut as an analyst. I mean, what a stud! He did well as well.
I would call him a schemer, but
yeah, all right,
that's
fair
what
enough.
he is.
And then we have the old Titan tactician in here as well, Matt Sahag. Always fun to have Matt in the studio. I think when it's all said and done, we'll probably get to it. But first, what we're going to do is we're going to check out the U16 boys. We've got the play-in game, which was Genesis Youth Foundation against the UFA boys. And then the winner was going to go on and play the Sporting Iowa U16 boys, which is the first seed in that U16 age group. So essentially,
two games in one.
That's right.
I took the words right out of your mouth.
Thank God. Let's get to it. All right, welcome to the pod, guys. We've got the Titan tactician, aka Matt Sahag, and Southside Joe Sathanarath over here. Joe,
Southside Schemer.
The Southside Schemer, just here to talk tactics. Joe, you haven't been into the studio in a while. Welcome. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Good afternoon.
This is somebody's debut.
It is
on the pod. So can we just
might as well.
Yeah. So Joe, we know you listen to all the pods that we put out.
It's actually true.
Since you're part of the team, can you answer the first question without it getting asked to you?
Yeah, the answer is no.
No. This is not your first. This is not your first pod.
The answer no. Yes.
Yes. It is. You can tell he's nervous. Definitely his first time.
Rattled him. I love it. Okay, so you guys have been out at James County Field doing a little, I guess, sort of scouting and watching of the games. What did you guys take in?
So last weekend, was it Saturday or Sunday? I can't remember.
Saturday. It was Saturday because they were going to play the game on Sunday that you guys went to on Wednesday.
Yeah,
so Saturday.
Saturday, game of the week, we went out to the under-16 boys. I believe you'd call it a quarterfinal. Is that right? Or
the play-in game.
Or the play-in game. And it was UFA under-16 boys, United Futbol Academy versus Genesis Youth Foundation. So cool, actually, game because both clubs are relatively new programs. And in particular, both clubs have just joined the Iowa Soccer Association. So, I think for both of the club directors in Jaime Leyva and then San Gabriel, I think both of those guys have done a great job of getting their clubs and the constituents and the kids that they represent into some competitions where they're now playing against everybody else in Iowa. And so it's a big deal for these kids to be participating in the Iowa State Cup. And so leading up to the game, we were, I know, or at least I'll speak for myself, but I was very excited to kind of go to the game and check out and see how these kids would feature and probably what was one of for them individually, whether or not you think highly of the State Cup or not, it was a big deal for all those kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Joe, what'd you think?
Yeah, it was exciting, just to see these kids get the opportunity to play in State Cup. Groundbreaking, I think, actually. So I was just happy for all the players, coaches, and parents involved.
So, Blake, you were there. I should probably ask you what the weather was like.
Well, there's a good plug, Ben. People get on our Twitter account to check out the weather. But so yeah, it was actually quite a windy day out there at Cownie, and I thought the wind may have played a little more of a role in the game than it actually did. But I just kind of echo Matt and Joe's thoughts that it was, I think, pretty cool seeing a lot of those kids play in that type of quote high stakes kind of game. Losing you're out, and I think both of those guys, Sam and Jaime, would agree, and I think that's kind of why they've started their programs and fought and overcome some challenges to get their kids in the ISL. And
that makes it unique as well, right? That it's not a round robin tournament, Yeah,
it's super cool. That whole losing you're out kind of mentality. I was going to say that's probably the biggest difference for a lot of these kids when state cup time comes around is, that a lot of their league games, while they, there's a result, it's not like it's going into the table and figuring out at the end of the year, well, hey, we get promoted or relegated, or hey, we won the league, so we get a prize, or, hey, we got last in the league, man, I should probably look for a new team, or whatever it is. So in a game like this, it's like win or go home. So it sounds like it was an exciting day.
And they got to, I'd just jump in, they got to play on the stadium field, which I think is kind of a cool little, adds a little bit to everything.
Yeah, we hear too much these days, and this is just my own opinion, but there's too much sort of chatter, in my opinion, amongst the sort of youth soccer world in Iowa. And we keep pushing like development, and it doesn't really matter if you win or not. But, I tell you what, I love this concept of teaching kids and telling kids that actually winning is important in a lot of circumstances. It's not the only thing. It's not the primary thing, but it means a lot. So I love the single elimination format. I think the kids get up for the game. I think the kids prepare more, and it means something for them. And so I love the single elimination format. I think coronavirus kind of forced it on ISA, but I hope they keep it. I'd love to see this continue, the single elimination stuff.
Yeah, I think that the idea of playing to win is playing just to win. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. But if you're not, playing to win in any way, then kind of waste of time. I've got a really inappropriate quote for that I'm not going to share. So let's just get down to the actual tactics, because that's why we're here, right, Schemer? Joey, so I'm going to put you on the spot. I want you just talk a little bit about the game, what the difference was. You said, it sounds like the result was a little lopsided. So maybe just give us a quick recap, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty and make the Titan Tactician take apart the second match.
Yeah. So before, Joe, you get into that, this is the part where Ben just really tries to steer you into like tactics and stuff like that. So if you've got other stuff to say.
You've got emotions, you're allowed to share them. You are allowed to share them.
That's right.
I don't want the Titan Tactician getting clouded.
Also, sort of the atmosphere and stuff like that. Don't let him sort of cramp your style in terms of what you thought about the game.
Sorry,
I'll be honest. I might be able to provide more insight in the second game because I was making sure my son didn't get kidnapped. I was keeping an eye on him for the most part.
Were you successful?
Yeah.
Okay, so 10-0 match. It was lopsided, say Hague.
It was 9, wasn't it?
I think it ended up being 10. They got one there towards right at the end.
Okay, so regardless, a lopsided scoreline. Would you maybe just kind of like give us some bullet points on what the difference really was in the game? If it was just, maybe it's just pure quality, but maybe there are other things to it as well.
Well, yeah. I think as well, just to jump in, Genesis had quite a few younger kids as well,
gotcha.
Which I think impacts his analysis maybe.
Yeah, totally. It was very clear that Genesis was a compilation of a number of different age groups, and I think that's just where Genesis and Sam and Gabriel is at in developing his program. But
it's almost a volume issue, just amount of players that he's picking from his pool.
Totally. And by the way, I like that. I think if you're good enough, you're old enough, and so I don't see a problem with that. And I would actually, I wish we had just sort of high school age groups and club soccer too. But regardless, when you mention younger players, one of the cool things about that game actually, and more specifically for Genesis in that game, they come in in vans and in buses, and so they bring kind of their whole club into the game. And so on the sideline there was not only the kids that were participating, but there were a bunch of kids that were watching the older kids too. So you had a wide range of kids that actually played in the game, but then you even had younger kids that were watching as well. And it creates a little bit of havoc and chaos on the sidelines, to be honest, which I think is probably a problem for some people in some situations, but it actually adds to the atmosphere a little bit. And so I thought that was kind of a cool factor as you sort of led into the actual game.
What did you think about the actual play, Siebes?
Yeah, I'd kind of echo that. It was cool seeing. I mean, that's kind of how the quote European clubs kind of do things, right? You have all the youth players, the younger players kind of go to the older ones or the first team games.
Yeah, and it's even like a high school game though, right? Like freshmen play, then the JV plays, and they stick around and watch varsity usually.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so my only thoughts just kind of briefly on that, UFA had quite a bit of success just kind of playing balls over the top of Genesis backline. Genesis backline was a little bit high and, not very compact. And so a couple of the goals, Genesis may want to go back and, if they would have just dropped off a little bit when there's no pressure on the ball, I think they could have cleaned a few things up. But unfortunately, UFA was able to get in behind them. One was specifically a free kick just from just inside the half maybe. They just played it directly over the top, pretty direct, and able to get in behind and score. But the Genesis goalkeeper, was busy, but he did well. He saved a penalty, made a couple of big saves as well.
I'll add that UFA were very comfortable on the ball, and it's a little bit of foreshadowing for the next game as well. They were moving the ball at will, passing, moving, balls going side to side and forward and back. And they just it felt like they were just in control the whole time. Felt confident, right?
Yeah, let's not sort of, beat around the bush. It was total domination by UFA in the game. It was 9-0. So,
10, we don't know.
Yeah, they 9-0, 10-0. Yeah, I saw 9. They kept control of the game. They do a nice job of keeping the ball. They got a couple players. They got a couple of real impact players that when you play against a team like Genesis, who's got younger kids and smaller kids in stature, some of that stuff makes a big difference. So for UFA, and they're number 7, and I don't mean positionally. The jersey on his back. And I don't know some of these kids' names, but for number 7, number 6, I think his name's actually Jonathan.
I know that.
And then number 40. So if you're watching this and it's in Twitter, chime in for who the people are in the comments on Facebook or Twitter or whatnot. But those are the 3 impact players for me for UFA, who sort of in individual moments they make all the difference in the world. So I think that you take those 3 players off the field, the game's a little bit different, but they're a big reason why, UFA just totally dominated the game.
So, let's probably not waste any more time on that.
So big, else. Yeah, so big win from UFA. They were supposed to turn around and play then that Sunday, right? But Sunday we had a little weather event. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
That wasn't. Oh, that was Corona.
Yeah,
okay.
that was.
We did have a weather event, too.
We did.
So they may not have played anyway.
No, everybody
played Sunday.
Yeah, everybody was snow photos and all that stuff. Were you on social?
I was.
A few
places live in the moment for a minute.
A few places canceled.
Yeah, fair enough.
But
okay,
not Iowa Soccer.
Coronavirus related, they pushed back the game.
Habitual offenders for cancellations.
so on Wednesday, they played the game. Is that correct? So a rescheduled match due to coronavirus. Big game since the seeded first was the Sporting Iowa. It's the Central Iowa squad, right? Sporting Iowa Central. Correct. Yes, and then playing against UFA's group, U16 group. So okay, I don't know anything about the game. Literally, didn't pay attention. Didn't ask any questions ahead of time, so I know nothing. Give me the recap.
Yeah, so the first 15 minutes, I would say that it was evident to me that Sporting Iowa was played in, high level, high importance type games. And that was evident in how comfortable they were when they had possession of the ball. They were moving the ball around really well and at times created really good opportunities. And the goalkeeper for UFA came up with some fantastic saves. I think there were a couple one-on-ones there, a couple other scenarios where it was like a ball was pinballing back and forth, where I think, Sporting probably should have been up 1 or 2-0. And then I think they ended up scoring. there was number 47. I think he was a holding midfielder for Sporting Iowa, who I felt was a really good player. He was athletic, strong, all over the field. And he hit a cannon from about 25 yards out. And that, went in. It was a straight shot over the goalkeeper's head. But to his credit, it was a really, really good shot. So I think that was where it was. And UFA was a little bit, I think, I don't know, starstruck's the right word, but they were playing a little bit reserved, not wanting to make mistakes. And I think that
that happens, especially that goes back to this like frustration, at least from my standpoint, of just trying to find a way to play meaningful games. So like UFA's played games, but they probably haven't. This is probably the most meaningful game they played outside of this was their 10-0 thrashing of Genesis. So like that's kind of a tough situation when you put anything against the top team in the state, right? Yeah. They probably, I'm assuming they're top ranked because they won last year. So I think that to me just kind of is that little criticism of like how do we find a way to give people competitive games more regularly?
I think Sporting though is like maybe number 4.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
They're ranked 4. So, but nevertheless, I think UFA though was maybe 8 or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, was that, are they number 1?
Yeah, Sporting Iowa is 1 seed. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So it was 8-9. So Genesis
was a playing game. I assume they're playing.
Okay. Genesis was 8-9.
So I think
which is why this is why the quarterfinal is usually 1 against 8, because usually in the quarterfinals there's 8 teams.
Wow. So Sporting is the number 1 seed in that age bracket. Really?
Yep.
Interesting. So I'll jump in here.
Obviously.
Yeah.
What?
Please do that. You're the time tactician. You're here to jump in.
All right. So a couple thoughts. Number 1, let's go back to the atmosphere, right? There were a lot of people at this game, right? There were a lot of fans at this game. It was a Wednesday night game.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool. There were kids running around everywhere.
Yeah.
There was a cool atmosphere.
Was that Cownie?
Game.
It was at Cownie.
It was at Cownie on the stadium field. And look, I mean, we don't see that often in club soccer. We would see some of that in some playoff soccer in high school in some circumstances.
You could even argue that there were more people there than maybe a D1 soccer game.
Oh yeah, there's more people than at the Drake games and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So who were the kids? Were they
UFA kids? Yeah.
Okay.
So and here's how we can tell, right? And I wanted to mention this too. I mean, you can accuse us and accuse me of bias and all that stuff, but our logo is on the front of all the UFA soccer players' jerseys, the Kick It Forward logo, so to speak, which I think is a great thing, is a cool thing. This organization totally supports that club, totally supports the growth of that club. And I love that they're willing to wear sort of our logo on the front of their jerseys as the lead sponsor of their organization for their soccer program. And it's, for me personally, it's one of the reasons I'm very interested in how they did. And to be honest with you, I mean, I was hoping that it would beat Sporting for the sole reason that they're, our companies our nonprofits on the front of their jerseys. But that's how you could tell. Like, there's a bunch of UFA kids running around and Kick It Forward with Kick It Forward logo on the front of their UFA jerseys. So
you guys talk about atmosphere, which State Cup, the game on Saturday, the first one that we were at, there was about 3 or 4 other games going on. And it was literally, I pulled up and sat there and you couldn't hear anything from any other field. It was very bland. It was like, oh, this is a typical, you're at a random soccer complex for a random Saturday afternoon game. So maybe, so Wednesday night, probably not much training going on, right, at UFA's club. And I just wonder if Iowa Soccer may want to kind of look at these one-off, especially if they're single elimination, doing them maybe potentially midweek or Friday night, Saturday night games where more people, more members can attend these games. That may help.
Totally. I mean, that was like it was on my agenda for the night, right? The evening on a Wednesday, like I had nothing else to do.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's a great idea. Single elimination on a weeknight, give somebody something to do, give your club something to do, and get out there.
Well,
great idea.
It even goes back to just the idea of making your league games count to some extent,
right?
Because that could just be a league game, and it's a big game that they, that could have just been any game. It could have been VSA against Iowa Rush, and it's a local matchup, and maybe it's competitive.
Yeah. And
then you've got people coming from all around the community that want to see the game, and it's not just Ankeny kids and Waukee kids or families. Right. Like you probably would have been interested in that game regardless of if the logo's on the front. Like I was interested, I just Well, no, maybe not. Okay, the logo makes a difference.
You think about the experience for those kids as well, right? We talked about a night game. How exciting! Do you guys remember how fun it was to play high school under the lights?
I still like playing under the lights
Right?
too.
Yeah, I mean, I do too. With some of these kids who are coming, what is it? Is it in the spring? Is State Cup in the spring for younger kids, 13, 14? So these kids are generally in middle school. Mm-hmm. If they get some of these night games for a State Cup semifinal or whatever, I think that experience for them alone will carry weight as they get older.
Well, I think Nebraska, for those that don't know, holds their games at Creighton Stadium, the finals. I shouldn't say the round robin or any of the preliminary games, but the finals they hold at Creighton Stadium, which arguably top 5-10 places to play outside of the proper MLS stadiums.
I say like probably small scale stadiums, definitely top 5.
Yeah. So they've kind of figured that out, and it sounds like just talking to those guys over there, they get the attendance, they get people to come, and there's only one field, so it's a one-off game, and there's not 7 finals being played at a time.
Yeah.
So who are the standout players for both squads? I mean, so you talked about the 3 guys before. How did they fare up against, stiffer competition?
Yeah. So here's my observation. 2 things.
The finals, can we just at least
final score? I'd like to know that actually before.
3-1, 3-1 Sporting, right?
Yeah, okay.
At least, I left at 3-1.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think it was 3-1. 3-1.
When that third goal went in, I left because the game was over. So
scoreline wasn't indicative of how close the game really was, I thought.
I didn't think so either. So here's one thing I would say for both teams, and then all youth soccer teams in general in Iowa. And I'm going to take just a different I don't know if you call it devil's advocate or just take a different position than what we're hearing from sort of everyone in this country and then also on the youth stage. And this is sort of idea that you have to possess the ball like all times, that you have to play the ball out of the back at all times, that you have to keep the ball at all times. I think what we need to start seeing more often is kids playing the ball forwards. I'm not just saying just hoof it forwards and get it forwards 40 or 50 yards, but play a pass forwards that actually beats somebody or makes somebody turn and run, or that penetrates some sort of line of defense.
One of the biggest things I learned in college, that was one of our themes, was always first pass forward. When you win the ball, can you play forward?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And because so often you see people they win the ball and they go put their foot on and go, well, we can keep it now. And they let's start over. And it's the moment is in transition. Play forward. Right. Sorry, I didn't mean to. But
no.
I think that was one of those things I learned, and I just go, oh.
Yeah.
So we would play games where it was in training where it was if there's turnover, you have to play forward, and you just get it in your head.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a totally different mindset. Some people don't like it. I know when I play with certain players, they really don't care for the fact that I'm always go. Yeah. They're put your foot on the ball, keep it, let's slow down. I just don't like to play that way.
Yeah, because then you've got the same tempo. You can't beat the opposition by playing at the same tempo all the time. In fact, you just play into how they want to defend. You make their job easier. So this is what I would say about the majority of the game. I mean, if I watch the game, when I watch the game, the first half and then, leading the second half, Sporting was pushing the ball forwards and not playing forwards necessarily, but they were probably, if they won the ball or even if they were defending, they were in UFAs. They're in their attacking third, and UFA was in their defensive third. So UFA would get the ball, and when they got the ball, they're good on the ball. They're great on the ball. The kids have great skill on the ball, and so they would pass the ball around the back, and would take a lot of time, all the time, to get the ball forwards. And it made Sporting's job pretty easy. And then you just sort of slowly work the ball at the field. You turn it over sometimes you do well, you go forwards, but the tempo and the pace of the game is sort of always the same, And so it wasn't until UFA actually went down that there was a little bit of urgency, and they said, hey, we got to actually play the ball forward. So what happens is, Sporting's best player in the field is number 47. He's got sort of long hair, sort of you call him sort of a mop top, right? Hair all over the place, lanky kid, physically, but good player, totally the best player, easily can run box to box, all that good stuff. And he gets the first goal, right? I mean, it comes out and he just bangs one in from 25 yards. But, when UFA go down, it's oh man, we might actually have to play the ball forwards. And I mean, there's no secret, or there's no question as to why they actually scored the first goal. Well, the left back or the left midfielder just tried to play it in forward. So their best player, number 7, who got the ball, received it on his chest, turned, hit the ball, towards the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper made a save, and then someone cleaned it up, put it in the back of the net. But the point is, the ball actually went forwards and was put in a threatening position by going forwards. And so I get it. You want to keep the ball. You want to teach kids how to keep the ball. But, pass selection is really important when you keep the ball. Play the ball forward. Don't just play it side to side. And I think it goes for both teams. And I think we're going to see it when we go out to games this weekend again and in the finals. But it seems like we're teaching kids to keep the ball by passing sideways and backwards.
Oh God, I have such a good quote.
As opposed to keeping the ball by going forwards and backwards.
Yeah.
Like, what is I don't get it.
So when I go watch youth games, this is how I can tell who is a stud player, right? It's how can they, we talked about possession, right? Possession to me, it's how can you maintain possession under pressure, right? An example that I'll use is if there's a ball in the air and it's coming your direction, can you determine if there's going to be a defender within 5 or 10 feet from, or 5 or 10 yards from you? And how are you going to react? Are you just going to hoof it back across, or are you going to be comfortable enough to bring that ball down and possess?
What are you going to do, Joe?
I would bring the ball down.
Yeah.
Sorry, Blake.
What would you do?
I like that.
Seavers probably hoof it.
But that's how I can tell if you're comfortable with, playing under pressure, holding possession, being comfortably or technically comfortable enough.
This goes back to the competition thing and the winning thing, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you're playing like in training and it's like it's high tempo because the loser has to do something they don't want to do or whatever, there's a punishment. Or like in a real game, there's a punishment. You lose, you're out. No more. You don't get to play anymore. So you're like, ooh, I gotta try a little harder. I gotta pass a little quicker. I gotta move a little faster. That makes all the difference in the world at this level. And these kids go and they play in training, and it's just like, all right, we're here to develop. Let's work on our passing patterns. Let's do this. And it's like, how do you increase that tempo?
Well, I think part of that is when you play penetrating passes, some of them are going to get cut out. So if the coach says you gave the ball away, they're not going to try to do that.
That's
I think that's the biggest
People are
part.
keeping possession. When you're keeping, if the only goal is to keep possession, when you like, if you've ever gone and you talk about playing up or playing out of your comfort zone and you're just playing like a possession game, your goal is literally safest pass every time. Right?
Yeah.
You're just like, okay, give like hot potato. Don't want it, but as long as I don't give it away, that's a win. And then when you start to progress, you start to go like, all right, let's see what we can really do. Here.
Right.
Like, can I actually like penetrate and can I move and can I get it back and whatever. That like, I will say there's a particular guy that I played with in men's league who chirped a whole lot. And it was just like, sometimes I'd be like, dude, just like be quiet. But his whole thing was, as long as you have your heart is in the right place and you're trying to make an actually good decision, I don't care if you try to ping it out to the right midfielder and that's where it needs to go and you fucking kick it out of bounds, then you're out.
Right. You think about how a lot of goals are scored. It's you talk about transition, right? It's about when you win the ball, those first 2 passes are going to be key. Can you go forward with those first two passes, or at least just maintain possession, right? So then you can start to attack while the team that just lost the ball are trying to recover. I think the first goal was a result of that. There was one player I felt in particular who was excellent maintaining possession under pressure, and that was the number 7 for UFA. He played a big role, and whenever he had the ball, it allowed UFA to move up the field collectively.
Yeah, he could hold it.
Mm-hmm.
He could hold the ball under pressure.
Yep.
He could hold it. He could receive it with his back to where he wanted to go next, and then turn and go somewhere else. I totally agree. It helped the team advance up the field when he got the ball. My only statement, he didn't touch the ball enough. Mm-hmm. In the first half, they actually had him playing wide right for a while. And then when he moved into the center of the field in the second half, he actually got the ball more often. But he needed it. If UFA wanted to win that game, given what happened, he needed to touch the ball more often. So to me, the difference is, and I hate to be critical of UFA's goalkeeper because he actually made a bunch of good saves. Mm-hmm. But here's the sort of in my opinion, the difference in the game is UFA actually probably should have won the game 1-0. I think that Sporting's first goal, the goalkeeper should have saved, the one right over his head. The second goal, he got actually beat, I want to say near post, but actually went right through his hands.
There was a deflection. It was a shot deflection and curled,
Shouldn't have gone in. And then the third goal, which is the goal that, UFA is trying to get the game, it actually just kind of loops up and goes over his head and doesn't try for it and goes over his head. And that's 3-1. So,
yeah, the kid was, he was a couple yards away from the corner flag and plays in a hopeful ball and he goes over his head and goes in the net. Yeah. So
and then, so UFA actually only has one good chance in the game and they score on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that's the difference in the game. I think it's the goalkeeper for UFA, who actually had a good game except for 3 big mistakes. It's one chance and one finish for UFA, and not enough sort of threatening chances to put more goals more goals in. But I think that's the real difference. But when you look at the game from just how do both teams sort of size up and match up against each other, I can't see much difference between Sporting and UFA.
Yeah.
And I actually think that's a great and a positive thing for UFA and Jaime's club. These are kids that, realistically haven't been playing together very often. These are kids who, it's my understanding, and maybe we need some stats on it to actually verify these things, but are coming from some families and some homes that are probably not as financially well off as a lot of those Sporting kids. These are, the Sporting kids have probably been coming up in that club since they were 8 and 9 years old. And for me, for UFA to be so close, except for, what are big difference in games or mistakes and different things like that, is a really positive for UFA. And I think on a different day, UFA could win that game.
Yeah.
I think next year UFA could win that game. But what I love is I think we need more clubs and not less clubs. I think we need more parity to drive competition.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think we need different competition formats like now what Iowa soccer has in these one-offs to really advance soccer in our state. And so I think we're headed in the right direction, although it's taking a little bit longer than what I would like to see.
Mm-hmm. And I don't even know, I don't know if I have an opinion on more clubs or less clubs, but I just really can't stress enough. I feel like there has to be a way to make the competition more relevant. Like that, you have to find a way to do that and make competition be, development is super important, but development without any end product is nothing. Mm-hmm. So if we're going to teach all these kids how to play out of the back and be good technicians and be, understand how to play the game, hopefully they can also go and translate that into winning somewhere.
Right.
And I think that if you look at soccer as a teacher of life, guys that learn or girls that learn how to win go on and find a way to be successful.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
There's nothing wrong with losing. Don't get me wrong. Losers in games can go on and find ways, because that then also forces you to teach you to be stronger and come back. But again, that's part of it. So if I lose, now I'm I got to work a little harder now.
Yeah, but don't you think in that specific circumstance where you're in an under 16 play-in game to go to the state cup final, there's something wrong with losing, right? I don't think that's what you meant by that.
No, there's nothing wrong. But it's not you need to go climb a hole.
The objective is to win the game.
Correct, 100%.
And I think, go ahead, Joe.
That's not what I meant by that.
Winning is the product of solving problems, right? So if you're down 1-0 or you're tied or whatever, you're trying to win, what are you going to do? How are you going to beat the back four or beat the certain team? They're playing a certain way. What are you going to do, right? That's an important
which
part.
translates to life.
Sure,
I'm having trouble at home, I'm having trouble
it.
at school, I'm having trouble, in my relationships, whatever. What do I need to do differently? How do I get better?
So here's a brief side note too. Jaime was UFA's director was standing next to us for some of the game. We were talking about some of their younger age groups. And I think, at under 8s and under 9s in his league, the United Football League, they actually have playoffs. They actually have championships. They have trophies.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that 8-year-olds, you're giving them a prize for winning.
6-year-olds. 6-year-old. My 6-year-old,
whatever
yeah.
it is. It's not the only thing. It's not the primary thing. but I think that winning has got to get introduced earlier now, earlier than what we've sort of been accustomed to say. I think it's sort of become this excuse.
Can I make it a mission to you, Matt?
Right? What's that?
So I recently got some stuff for my parents that they were like in storage, and I found like an old, it's like when you're a kid, right? They're like, hey, why don't you in English class? Why don't you write a book? So I just wrote like a track record of all my games one year, and it's like literally we won 10-0. I scored 5 goals. We won, it's ridiculous, but it's all like this was like confidence building for me. Like I was just like literally sitting there getting like more and more confident every time. Like, man, I scored 30 goals this season. Holy smokes! Like I can go and like I could be good at this. Like I like this, and that's some people might say that's not healthy. I don't know.
Well, at the end of the day, the kids are keeping score. Yeah. No matter what you want to say.
Right.
So even like that, I mean, Joey, we've got 6-year-olds. They're keeping score. They're keeping track of how many goals they score. They're doing it 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s, even though you're, quote, not turning the score in. Everybody's keeping score. Everybody knows how it goes.
And everybody they emulate, like everything they watch on TV, all that stuff. Like these guys are playing to win.
Yeah. Julian, it's funny. This is funny because he had a semifinal game, I think, last Saturday. So with Jaime's UFA club, the U7s, they play in their own league on Saturdays, and then they play in the ISL on Sundays against U9s. Right, pretty crazy. So in the semifinal game, their team lost 2-1. And he comes home and his mom says, "How'd the game go?" He's like, "We lost 2-1, but that's okay, right, Mom?" They're keeping. I mean, they know the score. They know the score. For sure. They're competitive.
And that's why it goes like
Did your mom? What did the mom say?
What did Lisa say?
What did actually we act like we don't know who the mom. Like, what did Lisa say?
Yeah.
No, Lisa said, "Good job, buddy. Did you try your hardest?"
Of course.
Yeah. Right.
That's the difference, though, right? Like, put the emphasis on winning. Like, it's okay for the kids to keep score, and the emphasis. I mean, a portion of the emphasis should be on winning. But then when you come home, it's like, did you have fun?
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
Yep.
That was where I was like my comment earlier. It's like it's okay to lose. Like I still remember my U11 soccer.
And it's okay to play to win.
Correct. Absolutely.
Right.
So my whole U11 soccer year, I don't think we won a single game. Like not a single one. We used to get trounced. And then like my U12 year, like Blake came to join the team. Maybe we won a couple of games.
Here's the secret right here.
We won a couple of games. But like honestly, by the time we were U14s, we'd figured out a way to win and like really become really competitive. And it came a lot from like me losing a lot for a year, and then Blake losing a lot for a year together, and being like, dude, this is not going to be the way it goes because it sucks.
So it sounds kind of like UFA didn't necessarily know, quote, how to win a game, because going back to Ben's argument of they haven't played any diehard competitive games. Like, you go on the weekend in a regular league game, it doesn't mean anything. So you may not need to change your style of play until the last 5 or 10 minutes.
Or you might not even change it because you're like, it's okay.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, we just want to build and build and build.
That's the thing. So I was kind of planting the seed with that first game. UFA were more than capable, technically, their ability to possess, pass the ball, and attack effectively. We saw that with Genesis. Not, obviously Genesis and Sporting are 2 different levels of competition, but I've seen them enough to where that if they were comfortable and were confident in their ability, it would have been a different game. But I think they were very afraid to make mistakes. There were 1-2 passes, and then the third one would kind of just go straight.
Yeah. I mean, in the end, it was a fair result.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It was a fair result. Sporting won 3-1. They deserved to win. The game was close, but it's a fair result.
Yep.
So it's do you guys have anything else to add on the game or anything like that?
I don't.
No,
and I think that's probably like we get all fired up about this stuff because it seems like stuff that's fixable, but the reality is like when it's all said and done, like these kids are just playing within the parameters they're given, and I mean, it sounds like Sporting Iowa's probably got a stronger squad. They've probably been together longer. They've probably got better players overall. And so hopefully UFA kind of takes that little chip on the shoulder and gets to work and tries to improve. And hopefully Sporting doesn't get complacent.
There you
go. Blake, do you have anything for us here? It looks like you're maybe looking up the schedule for the next games.
Well, I said we were going to
Who's Sporting Iowa play in the next round?
I said I was going to try to give everybody a little
We're gonna make some
A
predictions.
little update, Joe, or did you want to chime in there, Joey?
No,
Yeah, so Sporting Iowa ends up playing CRSA, and then just the other side of the bracket is.
What were they ranked? CRSA.
So are you talking the U16 boys?
Yeah.
Matt, CRSA.
Yeah. I'm
So,
just curious
yeah.
if they upset anyone or.
So I'm just looking at it here. They beat Sporting Iowa East.
Okay.
And they played at TBK on Sunday. And I can't I can't tell what seed they were at or are actually.
Okay.
Which is kind of too bad. They were the 4 of the 5. They were 4 of the 5 seed.
Okay.
Yeah, so the other half of that bracket, you got the Iowa Rush 2005 boys, which is the 2 seed, playing against FC United. So,
well, it seems.
What do we got on tap then as well?
So we got on tap so we kind of like that 16-year-old
Age
bracket. Yep. So we're going to go to the girls' side this time on the weekend.
We're gonna go to the final on
Watch
Sunday.
the final on Sunday.
3:30 in the afternoon. Who are the 4 teams that are still in? Because the semifinals on Saturday. It's who do we have, Siebes?
Yeah. So we got Sporting Iowa Central, which is the 1 seed, up against FC America on the Saturday. They're the 4
FC
seed.
America out of FC Rapids.
Yep.
They're actually
Eastern Iowa?
Yeah, Eastern
I
Iowa.
think they may have taken second in last year or the year prior
So-
too.
so
So they're
nice.
actually
So
they're
a
gonna
little
be a tough
feisty
opponent.
game.
Yep. Then the other side of that bracket is FC United, which is the 2
Is
seed.
that the VSA FC United group?
No.
No.
Okay, that's the older group.
And they play the 3 seed, so it's kind of chalk.
Who's the third seed?
It was Iowa Rush,
Okay.
which they won 8-0 against
All right.
Iowa Soccer Club. So you got the 1, 2, 3, and the 4.
Yeah. So
on
let's
that.
just give a shout out to the sporting team. So that's my preference if they do well. I'm extremely biased towards the kids in that group. There's a number of kids that in the Sporting 05s who have done a ton of stuff with Kick Forward for a number of years now. And so I'm, wishing you guys all the best. Hope you guys get to the final and we get to have a look at what you guys do there.
Yeah, right on. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't shout out the Iowa Rush as well and their girls program success. And we've had, I think our highest listener still of the pod is Daryl Brazo. So like he's definitely, he might be the best friend of the pod because he's gotten us the most listeners. So
Speak for yourself, Ben.
Well, the pod is.
I'm not a fan of sporting. I'm not saying I'm a fan of sporting at all. Not at all. The players in the team. Let's go.
All right. Well, I'm just a fan of
we talked about
Daryl
the
Brazo.
U16 boys.
Yeah, we're gonna wrap this up real quick. But what do you got for us, Joe?
I think UFA's got a team in the final. I forgot who they're playing against. I think it's VSA.
Right? Yeah.
VSA. So I think that's going to be a great game. I think it's this Saturday at 10 or 1?
10.
Yes, yeah, so that's a semifinal though.
Oh, semifinal. Okay,
yep.
I'm sorry.
Yep,
semifinal.
So
still going to be a great game.
Yeah, got some work to do ahead of themselves.
Yeah. So either way, I think the coolest part about this is that, at least the 4 of us are paying attention to State Cup, regardless of the fact that we don't have a single team or, a kid or a kid that we coach or anything like that. We're not a part of it in that way. So if anything, I think it's just good to get State Cup and soccer in Iowa some exposure. So hopefully everybody enjoyed our sort of ranting discussion today. And hopefully you'll check back to see how the final on Sunday goes for the U16 girls. Thanks for joining us. Southside schemer Joseph Honorath and
Debut.
Titan tactician Matt.
Debut.
Say,
Thanks for having me.
All right. Cheers.
See you guys. Is that camera still on?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Blake. Another great game of the week in the books. Had fun chatting with the Southside schemer. Nice to have him in the studio. And always the Titan tactician, of course.
Absolutely. Hopefully we gave a little insight as to our experiences and opinions on the 2 games we reviewed.
Yeah, that's for sure. We got maybe a little sidetracked on the actual tactics and just really started talking about our opinions a lot. So hopefully you guys appreciated that. If not, unlucky. It would be good if you slid into our DMs and told us what you want to talk about. That'd be a good way to remedy that. What kind of DMs could you slide into, Blake?
Yeah, I mean, and can I add to that?
You most certainly can add to
also, I think we're trying to get people, if they want to be featured on the game of the week, let us know.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Because that was the only way we let the schemer on.
That's right. That's right. He had a request. We oblige.
That's absolutely.
So Facebook is Kick It Forward IA. Twitter, kick_forward.
Good.
Instagram, kick.it.forward.
Oh, look at him.
TikTok, kick.it.forward. YouTube, search Kick It Forward. And
what's our website?
Our website is kifsoccer.com. And we've got big news here for those that listen to the end. Breaking news, actually. We have a new email address, info@kifsoccer.com for any information or inquiries.
I love it, Blake.
All right. See you guys next week.